everyone, and welcome to our video tutorial on dual viewers. The dual viewer is a function in VT Pro which lets us divide our screen into two parts, a left viewer and a right viewer. This is very helpful if you want to directly compare two scenes, for instance, day versus night, summer versus winter, an empty venue versus the venue filled with people, or as in our example today, for showing the progress or the difference between different construction stages. There are two types of dual viewers. Twin view, which shows me exactly the same angle in my left and in my right panorama. And split view, where all this width is one panorama, but it gets divided in the middle and shows the leftmost part as panorama 1 and the extension of that, the rightmost part, as panorama 2. In fact, in this one, since this is essentially one panorama width, I can move the division line around, which is very useful to compare left and right directly. Let me show you how to create this. For instance, let's assume I wanted to create an immersive direct comparison of the different construction stages of this house here. These are my base panoramas, which I simply took a panorama at the same spot every X days to cover the different construction stages. If I wanted to create a day-night comparison of a house instead, well, then these would simply be one panorama of the spot taken during the day and the same panorama a couple hours later at sunset. So we open 3D Vista VT Pro, start a new project, and import our panoramas. So these are our two panoramas that we want to compare. Kitchen 2 and Kitchen 6. Right, so now we go to the skin, to miscellaneous up here, and in this miscellaneous skin element category we have two subcategories. We have a lot of elements actually, as you can see. We have the split view and the twin viewer. Let's start with the split viewer. So we select that and we click in the viewer to place it. And now, as you can see, we have our left viewer and our right viewer. And they each also have a name tag, which we can later change the actual text in there. So if we click on the left viewer, you can see that there's something popping up in red, which means there is something that we yet have to fill out. So we click on there, and this is actually the media that we still have to assign to that viewer. So I assign Kitchen 2. Now it does have a media that it'll show. And we do that same thing for the right viewer. So we double click on here, we click on the little folder icon, we select the media that this right viewer should be showing, and we click on Done. Let's preview. Now it should show in the left viewer, Panorama Kitchen 2, and in the right viewer, Panorama Kitchen 6. Let's see. Indeed, we have our stage 2 on the left and stage 6 on the right. And we can move around in both of them, either by moving the right panorama or the left panorama. And of course, since this is a split view, we can also move the division line to get a direct comparison between the two. Now, if we want to change, for instance, the starting point of those panoramas, we simply go to the first panorama and we set the initial point, which will also automatically set that same point for the right viewer panorama. And let's assume I also wanted to zoom out a little bit, the initial zoom, so I can see a little bit more. Let's see. Yes. it did change the initial view for both of the panoramas, so I still see them aligned. And I zoomed out a little bit, so we have a wider field of view. So basically what I'm trying to show you here is that whatever you set for the left panorama in terms of zoom and initial view will also be applied to the panorama shown in the other viewers, just so we can be sure that they're always aligned. So there's no need to go back and do that same process for the other panorama. It's done automatically. Now, let's see how we can change these labels up here. Since they're a skin element, we go back to the Skin tab, and we select the component directly here in the viewer. And as you can see, you can immediately edit the text in here. Say stage, I don't know if it was 2 or 3, stage 3. And stage 6. We can change the text size. We can also change the background of that component, of that element. We can also use variables, which means that we could automatically set this to always adopt the media name or title. So it would automatically be called whatever the panorama is called. And yes, so you can do pretty much anything with that. You can also delete it if you don't want any name tag at all. Now, if we want to have a twin screen instead of a split screen, the procedure is the exact same one. So let me show you. So let's first delete the split viewer in here, and inside our Skin tab, we again go to the Miscellaneous category. We scroll down, and instead of the split viewer, we now select the Twins viewer. So select it and click anywhere here in the main viewer to place it. And as you can see, we again have a left viewer and a right viewer. And if we click on them, again on the right-hand side, we have the action in red, which indicates that there is still an action from our side pending. We still have to define something in here. So we double click on that, and we have to assign the media that this left viewer should be showing. Let's do that. Do the same thing for the right viewer. Select Kitchen 6 for the right viewer, click Done, and that's it. Now we can see the exact same angle and vision in the left viewer in stage 3 and in the right viewer in stage 6. So if we apply zoom on one side, it will also be applied on the other side, and so forth. Back to our split view example. Okay, so right now we have this dual viewer permanently in our tour. But what if we wanted to start in a normal panorama, in a different panorama, and only access such a split screen or dual screen when we click on a hotspot or a button? In that case, what we would do is hide the split viewer here in the skin. We would import the panorama that we want the tour to start in. So just a normal panorama, it can be anything. I'm just selecting one from this folder here. Now in the playlist, I would actually have to move my starting panorama to the first position, so the tour does actually start with that panorama. And let's assume, so this is my starting panorama. Let's assume that I want a hotspot in here, which when being clicked on will open my split screen to show the actual comparison of the stages. So let's place an info icon, an info hotspot. It's just an example. And the action that I have to assign to this so that it will open the split view is show hide components. Select show because that's the action that I want the button to trigger. And I select which element it should be showing. And that's the split viewer. Click done and preview. So now the tour should hopefully start with that first panorama in a normal mode. Yes, it does. Let's move over here to the hotspot. Click, and yes, it opens the dual viewer with my left and right panorama, stage 3 and stage 6, where I can move around in. And now I could also add another hotspot or another button in the Skin tab to kind of go back to any other media with or without split screen. And that's it already. We hope you like it and we're excited to see everybody's ideas and implementations. Thanks for watching.